Hey everyone, and thanks for joining me on this open notebook. It's your spiritual big brother. For anybody that's never been here before, these are my open notebooks, and this is just me openly sharing some thoughts that I've been gathering, things that come through me, that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to get better at making these kind of faster so you guys can get right into these videos. So I did add this to the beginning. Before this, it was like 4 minutes long. So let's jump into it. Here's a good question. This might have even been a better open conversation question, but it's one that I've written down for this. Why bother with spirituality at all? And I've been actually wrestling with this one for maybe the last month and a half. It's been something that has kind of ran through me a few times after talking to other people on this channel, after talking to people that are close to me in my life that are also kind of on their own spiritual growth journeys. I've been saying it in a lot of different ways, and I'm sure I'm not going to hit every point here, but let me give you some of the bigger reasons why I think spirituality can really help a person, or like what's the real reason for it? I mean, obviously, one thing is to form your beliefs, and especially with finding God, wanting to believe in something, some higher power or something like that, or if you're like, polytheistic or anything like that, you might want multiple gods. I know that that's a way more ancient way of seeing it, but, that's been a part of our history too, and that's not far off the mark either. So whether or not you're monotheistic, polytheistic, whether or not you subscribe to Eastern thought or Western thought, I believe in my own way that, I believe in a way that I think everybody might agree with, that it all kind of leads to the same place, ultimately. They're all kind of pointing at the same thing. It's just, different ways up that mountain peak. People have just made different pathways up the mountain, but it all leads to the same place. Okay, but why though? Why spirituality? That's the question. In my opinion, and I'm going to probably miss some, I'll be talking about these more on the channel. It helps with your emotional intelligence. It helps with you to be able to create boundaries around your energy, how you share your love unconditionally, removing judgment and labels in life, self-love, learning how to forgive yourself, learning how to hold and sustain happiness and joy, learning when to use discernment in situations. You don't always have to be the hero. Maybe there's a time where it calls for you to be the hero. Maybe there's a time where it calls for you to be the bad guy, even though you're a good person with good intentions and a pure heart. Sometimes in this world, it's a balancing act. I mean, sometimes you might need to be the bad guy, and you gotta be okay with that. A lot of people aren't, and that makes you an extremist on one side. We're human beings. We fluctuate. Life is all about experiences and failing sometimes, and maybe taking some risks that are a little uncomfortable. Now, I'm not saying go blow all your savings and try to become rich overnight, okay? That's called being wise about the decisions and risks that we make. So, and sometimes it takes that too. Sometimes you got to learn by doing that. But again, why even bother with spirituality? I think spirituality is what it will do for you as a person. It will change you into probably the person you've always wanted to be, or at least it's one piece of that, okay? Let me say that, okay? I think that there's a lot to life. I think spirituality is one big piece. I think your career, your profession, your purpose, whatever drives you out here, however you can serve yourself, serve other people, not just people you love, but people out in public, without just giving it all away, giving everything that you've earned away, giving all your energy away, finding ways to put boundaries on that and serving people and also serving yourself too. That's that self-love. So I think spirituality, although I know I'm missing some key points here, I knew that this might happen. If I think of them, I will add them in the description as we go. But I just know that there's so much more, and I really wanted to sell this point by the time I'd get here and say it to you guys. But if nothing else, if you could just feel my energy right now, spirituality is probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me, and taking it seriously and seeking and finding out what faith really means, finding out
how to build, relationships and connection. That has helped me so much, because I've been building the best relationship I can with God, with everything that I understand. And I've learned that in doing so, it's a lot like forming a relationship in any other way that you would do that with another human being. Obviously, it's a higher intelligence, so I'm not going to say it's exactly the same. But I think if you frame it that way and you kind of make it seem like it's the same thing, you will treat God the way that you would want to treat the most unconditionally loving person in your life too. So it's almost like a training ground, but it's not. I mean, it's more than that, right? It's God. You're forming a relationship with God. You know what I mean? And he or she or whatever you want to believe it is fully divine, beyond this world, beyond infinite wisdom, knowledge, beyond our comprehension. But you hear what I'm saying? So, but if you treated that like you were trying to make a relationship with somebody that you really loved, you wanted to connect with, you wanted to be honest with, and you wanted to really share, how you're feeling, even when you're not feeling so hot, even when you're angry and irritated. That goes back to kind of that open conversation I was talking about, being honest, being truthful, even when it hurts, even when maybe it's not, popular. And I even mean that with God too. Just how you kind of talk to your best friend, I think you can talk to God the same way too. Or to a lover, you can talk to God the same way like that too. God wants you for who you are, okay? And the real you too, not the one that hides, not the one that's scared to, talk. The one that you are, the one that you show up as every day. Okay, I think you hear what I'm saying. There's a lot of great stuff with spirituality. I'm sorry if I undersold that in any way. I cannot tell you how great of a thing it is if you're serious about it. So, okay, let's move on. Hidden suffering. Things you need to release from, things you need to release yourself from, grow out of, or walk away from are going to be the final parts and hardest parts, because you've tried your hardest to integrate them into your life. But God and or your highest self always knows what's best for you to hold and live the life you truly want. That's why the suffering hurts most after you've cleaned up the easier stuff or more obvious stuff first. And if you aren't willing, sometimes God steps in and takes it, if you're honest, and forces it to happen. Your highest self and God end up deciding that maybe you can't see the lesson clear enough or understand it, but it also knows that it's holding you back. I think that one of the only times God may challenge you heavily and sort of intervene or create a condition for you to grow, you often won't like it. It will be painful. You may want to give up, or your life is maxed out and you think you can't take it anymore. I know I've talked about this a little bit, but this is kind of, I guess, bringing that all into maybe a better refined version of it. So what I'm really getting at here, and kind of where this thought kind of drew from in my own situation, is I think at some point in all of our lives, we will be challenged to our maximum capacities. I mean our maximum emotional capacities, maximum physical capacities, maximum spiritual capacities, anything like that. Whatever you want to call it, however you want to frame it, you will be at some point challenged to the maximum. And it will challenge you. I mean, way beyond what you've ever been comfortable being challenged by. Those are the times that most people don't understand. They get way too emotional. They get bitter. They get stuck in grief cycles. They never grow from it. They never see the lesson. And you're always going to learn that lesson in hindsight, after you've released it, after you've tried reflecting on it, after you've been through that season. And some people, like I said, they just get bitter, and that's it. But what's really supposed to happen is it's supposed to crack you open. It's supposed to make you vulnerable. It's supposed to make you see stuff in your life. The suffering that you're being given is suffering that you're struggling with. You're trying to control the world, control the outcomes. You want the world to work the way you want the world to work, and the world is showing you that the world doesn't always work that way. So it's really hard sometimes to take that lesson home. And the final part of that final piece that I said there, where you're trying to control it and see the world the way you want to see it, I'll be honest with you, I think that just came to me from an Alan Watts video. And he's very good if you haven't watched him before. So he gave me that piece for sure to finalize this, and it feels right. It feels like it was the piece that was missing from that. Maybe that's why I was coming back to this one or rewriting it again. But it's that control, and sometimes you need to surrender to that control. And I know I've talked about surrender before on the channel, and I want to be clear about surrender too. Surrendering is a beautiful thing when it's for the right reasons. Okay, I don't suggest that you surrender in life, you keel over, and you submit to every oppressive force that's out there, right? And I'm not even talking about oppressive forces. I'm talking about surrendering to the overextension of control that you try to get on your life, your expectations of how reality should play out, your expectations of what your life should look like, but maybe doesn't look like, your expectations of the unknowing, what you don't know, the unpredictable, what's going to happen next. You're not in control of that. Now, you can guide yourself through that. Think of yourself like a boat going down a river, okay? The river is the world, right? Okay? It's its own current. It's moving in its own direction. You can't change a river, right? You can't flip a river upside down. You can't, maybe you can dig it out a little bit and, you know, if you wanted to pull over or whatever. You know what I'm saying? There's things that maybe you can do to tweak it a little bit. But ultimately, it's going to keep going and going the same way. And when you do that, you exhaust yourself, right? But if you just went with the flow and you did what you could with your sail and you just allowed yourself to avert some obstacles, get around, become wiser, discern more, know when you can see something ahead that looks like, hey, maybe you don't want to, you know, because you become wiser and you realize that you're heading down the wrong path, you know, recorrect your course and get back on, that kind of stuff. Okay, I think we've done a good job of talking about that. I am perhaps satisfied with that for now. And tell me what you think, too. I am all ears. Please, get in the comments. I would appreciate that. Okay. Anyways. Let's see. Give me just a second here. Let's pause for just a moment. Let me read this one and just see if this is just a random thought that I just captured or if this is worth sharing. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, because I am going to be dealing with some AI and ChatGPT along the way, so I think this is a good one. Let me open up the discussion on this one, and we'll talk about it. I'm not sure. Well, I'll expand on it if I'm not happy with the way that I wrote this. So let's talk about it just the way I wrote it. An honest chat about AI. I think most people prefer a person to work with instead of AI, but it costs money and time in building a relationship. But so does AI at this pace. It comes down to friction and ease. But what it's costing humanity and the infrastructure is far greater. I love being a creator. I love having tools that help me. But if I'm being honest, it's making it easier for me to rush out half-baked ideas. And that's newer, and that's a newer form of selling out. A way that I think subtly, maybe we don't realize that. I even used to think if you used it strictly as a tool, but it was mostly you with the main ideas, that was a way to justify it and kind of satisfy the dilemma. But I keep seeing all the negatives and what it does to wannabe creators, and also what it does at a cost to the local communities with the data centers that are becoming required. And I won't go into that, but I have some friends that are very staunch on that, and I support them. I love AI, but it's at a great cost. So if you guys are unfamiliar with that, just take a look at what AI and data centers do to your local communities if you're not paying attention. Anyways, I don't like where it's heading, and I think some things need to be either better regulated, or we need to move forward wisely and consider our humanity and the cost with text prompts that make something close to what we were thinking, and we're calling that art or expression, and it's not. Creation is a process that humans control. And when you add a machine between you and the creation, it loses a piece of the human touch. It's like putting it through a filter. And one of the greatest things about humans and the way that we do it is our direct ability to influence something. Think about writing, right? The only tool that you got here is a piece of paper and the pencil that you're writing with. Now, I understand we can make that same argument for AI or a computer, right? You know, if you wanted to print out whatever it is that you're typing on a screen, then you'll get a product and it'll be kind of similar, right? But it loses that pace, right? That human ability to really get in the moment and feel and express. I feel like AI has us rush to what AI thinks is best. And that also makes us feel like, oh yeah, you're kind of saying what I thought, and that's what it feels good. And yeah, you're basically saying, hey, you did it better than I did it. Thanks. But that's cheap work, in my opinion. It is. And I have tried for months and months, actually years now, to justify it in my own way, to make it feel right. Like, I'm only using it as a tool. I'm only using it for this. And I've ultimately only really used it just to maybe pass a thought or two, just looking for an alternative perspective. Or I might actually use it as a tool, like as an editor, like, looking for an expansion of thoughts or something like that. But I never use it as my final piece. And that's actually why I'm largely sharing this raw stuff, because this is being human. This is what human looks like. And I feel like we're heading in a way too perfectionism direction. It's way too polished. We're removing that feeling that human beings bring to it, right? That's what, expression. And when we lose that, we lose humanity too. And I feel like if you use AI with that level of awareness, then it just becomes a tool that amplifies your work. But I'm telling you, 99.9% of a lot of the stuff that's out there, nobody's thinking like that. Nobody cares. From what I've seen, you see the same message over and over again, and it's just less human, and it doesn't feel the same. So I guess I'm advocating for better integration, better regulations, and people to be conscious of that and to put the work in. There's no shortcut to being a great creator or being the highest version of yourself, or creating something that really is going to last and be meaningful and create impact. Maybe I'm saying that sooner than my own becoming, and maybe I don't have the place to say that quite yet, but something in my soul makes me just feel that way about it. So share your thoughts on that, guys. That's I guess a good one that is relevant now. So okay, I think I've said enough on that. I think I've done a pretty good job of elaborating on that. And I think for anybody that's listening to this that maybe is a CEO or pushing data centers or some business guy, just do better with where you're putting the data centers. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe it's time to start building them underground or something like that. You know what I mean? Don't tear up communities and such like that. That's really what I'm saying. I'm not against the spread of technology. I'm not against human advancement. I'm not against with integrating tools and resources. I'm not against you guys making money. Go out there. That's what you guys spent your whole lifetimes, doing and seeking. So I'm not against that. But I am against the way that it happens. And, okay, so let's move on. Okay. Let's see. Is this a good thought or not? Let's see. We We talked about that last time. I'm going to skip that. Here's a good one. I already know where this one's going just by the way that I opened it up. Well, and I'm sure you will too. Okay. Truly trusting the universe and fully surrendering and believing that God will do the right things and help the ones you love and yourself, even when the outcomes might not be the way you've seen it or hoped for or expected. That He doesn't make mistakes, and that whatever He, as in God, is doing is ultimately for a reason, and maybe one you can't see, maybe one you'll never fully understand, but that there will be a reason for why He's doing it. That's when you're walking in full faith and allowing God to work His divine magic and will, and also surrendering the control. That doesn't mean not using some discernment or applying yourself or helping, but it does say something or guide someone, you do so. I'm not sure what I was trying to say there. It doesn't watching at a distance. Boy, there's some grammatical chop here. We'll cover that. Although it can sometimes mean just that too. That's why discernment, wisdom, and learning are key and experience too. They help you know when and when not to. And if you aren't certain and the stakes aren't too high, I recommend that you do so anyways and use that as an opportunity to learn from. My default in most cases is to do so and move through fear and hope that it isn't too costly of a lesson and that you can learn from it and it will serve you better when the stakes are high or if it's a loved one that's on the line. Okay, let me say this much. One of my biggest breakthroughs on working within faith, working in full faith, one of my biggest breakthroughs on this just happened a few seasons ago. And not even a few weeks ago. Alan Watts did a really great job of this. Now, I'm not going to be quoting him exactly, but what I ended up integrating based on what he said, which is very similar to what he said, but I like to see it this way. I think it feels a little bit more, well, he nailed it. Let me put it that way. But I integrated it into my own thing. So this is the way that he's seen it. He said something on the lines of, now this is a little bit of my version and his, but it came from him first. He said that trusting and walking in full faith is being able to blindfold yourself and fall backwards into the universe, or backwards into space, or backwards into the unknowing, and trusting that something will catch you. And I think that that's beautifully said. I think I've always heard that as kind of the leap of faith, and I picture it as more of like an Assassin's Creed type thing when he does that leap of faith from like the top of his synchronicity points or whatever, and he'll jump into the hay bales and like, you just jump and it's a long fall, you could hurt yourself, but you trust, you know what I mean? You trust that you've got the ability and that it's going to work out. But I think Alan Watts did it in such a way that was more spiritually based and made me feel it and understand it. I had intellectually always wrestled with this one, thought I understood it intellectually, egotistically, physically, out here externally, I thought I understood it. But when it came to really feeling what that meant, Alan Watts nailed it, and like it just clicked into place for me. So I'm sharing that with you guys too, and you guys should totally check out Alan Watts. Absolutely. He's almost a must for people like us. Okay, but let me explain, I guess that is a good expansion. Walking in full faith is believing that God's got your best interests in mind, even with anything. Whether or not that be driving, right? God will try to help you, nudge you, divert you, keep you out of an accident, or keep you out of anything that's life-threatening. And when you start walking that way, you walk a little bit more confident, and you talk a little bit more confident, and you just trust. You trust that everything's taken care of, and it's going to do it the right way. And that can be hard, especially the more you endure this world, the more you, the more things you see, the more fears that you have, the more things that challenge you in your life, sometimes we forget what that really looks like to really trust the universe and to feel like we can go out here and handle ourselves, but also trust that whatever's going to happen is going to happen for a reason. And maybe sometimes we don't understand it, but it's going to be helping us ultimately, or helping us on our pathway, or helping us with our purpose in life. And I have always found that to be true, even if it took me many years to see the lesson because I wasn't ready to see the lesson or I didn't understand it at the time. I have always found that true. Things happen for a reason. Okay, let's move on. All right. What do we got here? What is this all about? Here's kind of a lesson for attraction and for people that care about deep love or seeking somebody. And this is kind of a brief thought, but I'll elaborate on this. I remember kind of where this stemmed from. Finding someone you want to be with and be around above attraction, or just finding anyone, not the other way around. That has been my lesson on, well, relationships. I have always been very superficial in the way that I've sought out relationships. And it's been a challenging one for me because, again, this is one of those ones for me that intellectually I understood. I know what that means. You know, I know what it means to be shallow. And sometimes I think we're good at, again, this goes back to kind of lying to ourselves, or the ego and the way that it likes to coddle us from some truths that maybe we're not ready to accept. But it's always been that way for me. And honestly, it's why a lot of my relationships long ago had failed so many times. And I think it's a good one for everybody to remind themselves of again. You know, and I know they talk about this all the time, right? You're looking for personality. You're not looking just for looks. But I think, you know, it's nice to have something to look at too. At least, you know, partially good. You know, I'm not going to say it's got to be model material, right? I'm certainly not a model myself. But you hear what I'm saying? Like, you know, somebody should, if you look at them in the eyes, you should feel their warmth and everything like that. You should feel who they are. So I guess that's what I'm getting at. So that's a quick thought there. But it's true, and it's definitely a timeless one, and it's maybe worth maybe the little bit of refinement that I've put on that little splash there for anybody that's here.
All right, guys, I just wanted to kind of take a quick pause here and just add a little bit of extra context into this. I'm sitting here editing this, and I'm listening to myself again, and it's jogging my memory on when I was recording this. And I remember that while I was recording this, I could feel that I wasn't really sure if what I was saying was exactly how I felt. So what I'm kind of saying now is that these are, you know, just as a reminder, these are evolving thoughts, and I will definitely call that out on this specific one. I'm not sure exactly where I land on this subject perfectly. I think that this does a pretty good job of navigating it, but I'm still trying to find the words to really find the way that I feel about this. So it's a little taboo, maybe a little controversial, might rub a few people the wrong way. I totally get it. That's why I wanted to give you guys a heads up before we jump into this one.
And I hope for everybody out there, I hope you guys find somebody you love and like a soulmate, not just a play toy for a while. I think experience is good to an extent, and it all comes down to your beliefs too, okay? You know, by all means, there's so many different beliefs out there, and follow what's true to your heart, okay? Whatever it makes sense to you. Try not to hurt anybody out there. Try not to mislead anybody. Just do it the way that you feel in your soul is right to you. And if you're a staunch religious believer and you're into a certain thing, that's completely okay too. That is keeping some innocence alive, and it's a beautiful thing, and somebody's going to appreciate that for you too. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, so that's what I got to say about that though. But for a little bit more of the free spirit people and the fun-loving and just the good people out there that have good intentions out there, the ones that are looking for their soulmates and everything like that, I'm really speaking to you guys here on that one. But really, I guess it's for anybody. But I'm saying, I guess, I I understand the complexities of that. I understand how culture kind of shapes that too. I know that some things are maybe a little bit taboo for some people. So I will be respectful. And I expect you guys to be respectful too. Something that I don't usually talk about, but I'm happy to show you guys my maturity on this subject. Not as an expert, but as seeing the taboos and experiencing the taboos and being a part of that. My father's business, which is a little bit controversial, might rub some people the wrong way, but I hope people really can trust me and feel my pure intentions here. He owned an adult gift shop, and I know some people right now are like, oh, well, really? And you're sitting here giving this advice. I hear you. Listen, I've had to struggle with that one my whole life and figure out how to not only accept that, but be able to talk about it and feel good about the message that I'm sharing with you guys. That's been tough. That has been very tough for the record. But I do feel like I'm taking off a lot of the bias on it. I have seen a lot. I've had to be there. I've had to work with people. I'm a really great salesman for that kind of stuff. So I understand what it does. I understand what drives people. I understand the behaviors pretty well. Again, I am not an expert, but I deal with a lot of that stuff, and I'm very comfortable talking about that kind of stuff. Maybe we'll talk more about that on this channel. I'm going to leave this as just like a small kind of excerpt here. If people want to hear more about that kind of stuff, or maybe want to deal with some of the taboo or controversial stuff, I will do my best here. I have had to struggle with some of that kind of stuff on my own too, behind the scenes, and I don't really like to bring that up because I want people to find God. And I struggle to try to divert from some of the subjects that might turn some people off, or because I really believe in the mission that I have, which is really just helping other people find God. I mean, whatever that means for you. That could mean joining a church and a religion and a community. That could mean maybe you're a little bit more rebellious and you need to hear truths a different way. Or you just feel that pressure, like, I don't know if I'm really getting everything. That's kind of me. I'm on the outside, but I'm integrated with the system, okay? I've been through the system. I have taken religion very seriously. I have also found the ways that I practice outside of that. And I have went to many different resources to kind of really understand it from a lot of different ways so that I can then help other people figure out what's best for them. And so ultimately, I'm just going to try to help you guys find God, whatever that means to you guys. That's all I'm trying to do. So that sometimes means covering some of those hard subjects, and I'm okay with doing that. But I need to know that it's okay with my audience too, that you guys will allow me to go that direction, because I want to help people. And whatever's best for everybody out here that resonates with me is what I'm trying to find. That's why I started this channel in the first place, and I don't want to undermine my main goal. You know, I am very pure at heart. I've made a lot of mistakes too out there, and I've owned them, okay? I've had my regrets. I've had to heal from them. I have had to put more energy into a lot of different things. I've had to seek help, other people's guidance, read a lot of books, sit with myself many times and learn from my mistakes. And I think that that's a very healthy thing to do. And I think that that's part of being human too. So keep that all in mind. Okay, moving on from that though. But in case anybody was wondering kind of where my beliefs kind of lie on some of that taboo stuff and where they came from, or why I'm able to kind of navigate that confidently, that's why. You know, and my father was a great man, for the record. I will defend him to the day I die. Excellent man, excellent father. Didn't bring any of that stuff home with him. Never flaunted it. Just that's what happened for him. In fact, he's got a great story. One day I hope to share that with all of you. And he was a slave on a farm when he was growing up. And, you know, he had to start from nothing. And that was an opportunity from a friend, from a guy on a football team that really grew to liking my dad. And my dad was a great athlete too, but ended up, you know, starting a family and getting himself out there and working. So he was a great man and a great influence on me. And I'm proud of everything he'd done. So, you know. Okay, and we're moving on. Let me take a sip of coffee. Why don't we take a quick breather here, right? Just hang with me, hang with me here for a little bit. Boy, I can really feel my voice coming in today. I hope I can bring this kind of energy every day. I really enjoy sharing this and having this open conversation with people, or open notebook, whatever you want to. I'm going to call this my open notebook so people know the difference. But really, it's just an open conversation on a bunch of thoughts that I collect that I planned on organizing into different books and polishing up really good and making it sound really good and more fluffy to really help people. But right now, you guys are kind of getting it raw, like in the process, if you will. So I am definitely susceptible to error, to making some misjudgments or mistakes, but keep in mind, this has been 30 years in development. These are thoughts that I've been wrestling with, so they're pretty good right now. They could use some work, and that's why I'm expressing them and sharing them with you. They're not final, they're raw, and that's the best way I can say it. Okay, boy, I wish I could talk faster at a pace that everybody could appreciate and we can get all this done, but I can't do that because I'd feel like I'm cheating you guys. I'm cheating the thoughts. I'm cheating this whole process, and I don't want to do that. That's that's part of racing to the finish line. I don't want to do that. This is great stuff, and I just hope it reaches the right people at the right time. That's the big thing. So okay, let's get on with it then. All right, let's see. When someone doesn't believe in God or a higher power or something above them, they try to control everything and their lives. We forget sometimes that God is in control and created this world and all of us, and that we don't need to control everything or every little thing. Leave the details up to Him. Just enjoy your life and live it to the fullest. Concern yourself with yourself and you. Sounds a little redundant there. I'm not sure what I was. Concern yourself with yourself, I think is what I was trying to say. Not everyone else or every little thing. So stop worrying so much. I think that speaks for itself, but I think I've covered this too before. But this is just helping me refine the thoughts and make it sound even better. I think what happens in our lives is we tend to forget that this world has been here for a long time. And I don't care what source you look at. You can look at the scientific source. You can look at the more religious way that they see it for when things started and ended. And everybody's kind of got their own opinion on it. But the truth is, as far as I found it, we've been here for a long time. The Earth's been here for a long time. Nature's been here for a long time. And I like to look into nature when I need to find some bigger opinions or to see God at work or to see what He's created that is away from human and what we try to control and what we try to do. And nature is a good reminder of the pace God works, and the way that God feels and all of that stuff. You can find that in nature. So when you look at nature as a system or as an ecosystem, and you try to just visualize it without human beings for a while, and you just see the creatures there, the plants, the way that it keeps renewing life and decaying life and going through cycles, and that all of the creatures there are cared for. And yeah, there are predators. That's kind of the nature of the beast too. You know what I mean? I know that that can be hard for some people to swallow. But yeah, God created that too. That's a part of the ecosystem. That's a part of nature. So you can find a lot of human behavior in nature. You can kind of see it, how it works. You can feel it, express it. God is expressing Himself through us, but through nature too. I feel like that's like the pristine place where you can observe God and how He works, and the way that He keeps systems going, and the way that He created all of this for us to then live in and be a part of. So what I'm getting at is that when you're in nature, you're walking through nature, and you're just trying to think of yourself maybe as a hunter and gatherer before we had modern society and culture, and we've got all these cities and everything like that. We've got all these comforts. We can go to the store now. We don't even have to, hunt and gather for ourselves. So we've kind of removed ourselves from nature quite a bit. And so what I'm saying is, when you put yourself in nature, you get to then appreciate where you came from, where God put you, where we evolved from. And so when you look at it from that lens, you can kind of see that everything's taken care of in nature. Just watch nature for a few hours, right? You don't need to do anything. You don't need to bring the sun up. You don't need to make it rain when it needs to rain. You don't need to go tell that tree to grow. You don't need to go tell that squirrel how to go hunt. You don't need to go tell him where to make his nest. Do you see what I'm saying? But yet in our own lives, we think that we're in control, okay? That squirrel probably doesn't think he's in control. That tree probably doesn't think he's in control or it's in control. And everything else, the systems, the weather, everything that makes life possible and works in a system, you don't have to control all of that. God does that. This system, the world does that. And if you don't believe in God, the world takes care of itself. Okay? And I think you can realize that for yourself, and you can realize that for the public spheres, you can realize that for society, culture, all of that. It takes care of itself. So that's where we all get caught up at some point in our lives. We try to control outcomes even when we know we're not in control. Our egos kind of make us want to make things predictable and see patterns, and so that it makes it so that we feel safe, so that we know what to expect all the time. But the truth is, you don't know what to expect. But that's part of trusting, and that's part of that walking in full faith too. You know what I mean? This is kind of just a different way of seeing that. Okay, let's move on. All right. Just seeing here. My fingers are going all crazy. Spiritual fingers or magic fingers. Woo! Sorry for anybody that's bothered. I like feeling what I'm saying, so it's like, I like what I'm reading too. I don't know, like, call me a jitter guy. Maybe it's the coffee. It could be the coffee too. I don't know, Hard to say. All right, let's see. What do we got here? Is this one worth sharing? I've already talked about this one before. Let's talk about it. Let's see. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. Some people cut off from emotions or helping others through emotional times. And I used to think that was a big deal. And then I thought maybe they were onto something and smart for doing it. Knowing the hefty cost of caring and having an open heart. But then I realized it was a hefty cost. But it was worth it. Speaking from the heart and soul is always worth it. Always. So, what I was trying to say here is, in life, we're going to have some emotional stuff happen to you, and sometimes it's going to be easy to handle, or maybe just a little bit of pressure and it's hard, but you get through it. But then you're going to have some huge emotional burdens and some other people that create that for you. And then you got to learn what it's like to be dealing with other people's problems that aren't yours, even the emotional burdens that people bring. And I have always found that once you mature enough and you learn how to hold your emotions and not over give your energies away, and knowing where to put them into the right things, your passions in life, maybe your creative pursuits, maybe into your career, maybe giving it out to your friends, your loved ones, and that. But you can see how quickly, if you don't put boundaries on all of that, how quickly you can just give your whole self to the entire world and give it all away, and then there's nothing left for you and nothing left for the people that probably matter the most to you, because you're too busy giving it away in a lot of different places. So what I'm really trying to say here is, I think when you mature enough in this and you get your emotional boundaries down and you can use your energy in the right way, and express your presence and your love to a way where you're not just burning out and just giving it all away, When you can really mature and schedule your time around being able to do that, and also staying true to your boundaries. If some people steal your energy, either getting rid of them altogether, or at least making it like, hey, you need to follow kind of reasonable guidelines. And I know I used to go to extreme spectrums, like, don't bother me at all, ever. And it's like, I'm saying that to my mom because I want to create something, and I know that she loves me anyways. But you know what I mean? As a creator, as a passionate guy, as an emotionally intense guy, I like to fuel my energy on my work. But that's hard to do sometimes, and you got to juggle life and family and keeping up with chores and, everything else, right? So you got to know what reasonable boundaries look like and meeting a person halfway. Sometimes we want more than what's realistic, and we got to accept that other people, especially people that really care about you and love you, they can't possibly just never bother you again, right? And I wouldn't want that anyways, if I'm being honest. But sometimes we get stuck in that. We get easily irritated sometimes. And it happens to all of us. Welcome to Being a Human Being 101. Okay, so you hear what I'm saying. Ultimately, what I'm really saying out of all that, though, is I still believe that it's better to exert yourself, give that energy away, but also do it wisely and use discernment and learn from it, okay? You're probably going to burn out, give your energy away, and maybe you'll do that a few times, and maybe you won't understand what burnout really is. You won't realize that you have only a finite amount of energy or love to keep giving. It's like a vessel within you, and then you start giving it all away. You're trying to keep up with your friend groups, give your love there, give your time, because you enjoy that more all of a sudden, going out all the time, keeping up with your friends from work, keeping up with work. Just, what I'm saying? It's so easy to give it all away and then have nothing left. And you got to learn from that. It was a hard lesson for me for many, 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 many years. It took me a long time to do that. So keep that in mind for yourself. There's definitely healthy ways to do that, but you got to learn. Sometimes you got to burn out. Sometimes you got to emotionally completely give it all away, and before you really learn that lesson hard. And it was a hard one for me. Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. I think we're going to... So probably the last one. This is an interesting thought I've had. And I think that this aligns with some other thoughts, and maybe it's a combination of ones. But noticing signs of a bad day and learning and observing to allow and be more flexible and patient. So my framework of thinking on this one that I think works pretty well, and some people might agree. You might see, if you recognize patterns and such, and you're paying a little bit more attention like I do, this might click for you pretty good. And it's an evolution of thought. It's not finalized here. But I like to think of the world in a way that has multiple layers. What do I mean by that? Spheres of influence, spheres of the way that you control your own emotions is one sphere. That's what you're in control of. And it can be hard to do that if you're used to being tuned into the outer world, into social media, into what's going on at your job, all that kind of stuff, keeping up with the gossip, keeping up with the world, keeping up with what's going on. You're dialed into the emotions that are out in the world rather than your own emotions. And so I think that there's something to be said about you regulating, controlling your own emotions first. That's where you should be tuning yourself into. And that can take a while for you to really learn how to do that. That's a part of spirituality too, by the way. But beyond that, I think your local community has its own bigger consciousness, whatever you want to call it. What do they call it? One consciousness or something like that. Didn't Carl Jung kind of talk about something like that? Okay, but then I think that there's a global one. And I like to call that one the mood of the day. It's kind of what everybody's clicked into. And it's for a lot of different reasons, right? Maybe some big global event happened that everybody's aware of, right? Maybe it's a saddening event. Maybe it's a really happy event. But that makes everybody happy, right? Everybody sees that. Everybody's like, oh, wow, we're all tuned into that. And the world will tune into that emotional state that we're all in, okay? And sometimes maybe it's just choppy and chaotic. Maybe nothing's going on, or maybe a lot of different things, or maybe it's just a kind of mundane, normal day for a lot of people, just going through the motions. So there's not one set emotion or something like that on the day. But if you kind of follow me on that, I think that there's three different bigger spheres that I like to think of. Frequencies, whatever you want to call it, moods of different things, like local environments that everybody's connected to, and then bigger, more global conscious ones. And maybe there's more than that. You know what I mean? I haven't dissected every different layer, but I think I like to think of it that way. I think it's easier to grasp the concept. But what does that do for you, right? This is the big key on that, on why I think that that's a good way to think about it. It helps you understand what you're signing up for. You know how you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, you stub your toe off something, maybe things aren't clicking, your hands aren't working right today. That's you tapped into the global consciousness and realizing that today is maybe perhaps going to be a bad day. A lot of people are in a bad mood, and it is showing up in my life. We're all interconnected, okay? So keep that in mind. That's how that influence reaches you, even when you're not around another person or you're not in public or in the world. But you will get small signs, and I usually like to look for 3 of them, okay? I stubbed my toe, right? Okay, that was number 1. Okay, I got in the bathroom, and normally it's easy for me to just brush my teeth. And here I am struggling to get the toothbrush out. It's getting a little frustrating. It's minor stuff, right? This should be easy. I've done this a million times. Grab the toothbrush, put some toothpaste on it. The toothpaste is falling off. I got to do that again. Do you see what I'm saying? But then I'll usually look for ones that are out. So that's just me, myself. And then I'll usually look for one when I'm commuting. Maybe I'm going for a coffee. Maybe I'm on my way to work. Maybe I'm on my way to the store. And then I'm seeing traffic is packed and people are angry and frustrated. There's horns honking, plenty of people on the road, a little bit of road rage, people are rushing. And, maybe I'll stop in at, some coffee shop to grab a coffee, and the person I'm talking to is somehow irritated in some way. Or, they screwed up my order. You hear what I'm saying, okay? You're getting a lot of signs, okay, on that day, the mood of the day. And when you see that, you can then create a more predictive thing. You can avoid situations, you can avoid conversations, you can handle things differently, and you can avoid things that might create more stress and pressure for you in your life. Rather than just trying to get through a bad day, you're allowed to guide your sails through that day. You're allowed to say, hey, just realize that, an accident might be happening. I shouldn't try rushing, okay, through traffic, okay? I'm in control of me. I'm in control of my car, largely, and it's up to me, Some guy that just flipped me the finger, that was mad because I was driving too slow, let him pass you, let him go. Don't even get into that. He's having a bad day, let him go have a bad day. You know what I mean? Don't let that ruin your day. You're in control of that more than you realize. And I think that this is a great tool or framework that will help you realize when a bad day is about to happen before it even happens. So I really like this one. I think it could use some development. I'm still kind of working out. I'm still paying attention and recognizing patterns to make sure that this is good stuff. And it is. I have seen that this has helped me plenty of times to divert from a bad day. I have seen it in action, times where I've avoided conversations and I could hear it going on behind me, like, man, I almost stuck around for that. Or seeing somebody up the road that got into an accident that, it could have been me. So you hear what I'm saying? Okay. That's what I was saying about all this. All right. Let's wrap it up. We covered a lot of good stuff here. We covered a lot of great stuff. So I hope that this has served you guys well. I hope some of this stuff helps for you guys. I appreciate anybody that stayed around and listened to this long. If you got the full version, I'll probably be chopping these up into parts. I realize that these are big devotional things for you to spend all your time on listening to. So I'm going to do my best to do that and stay consistent and figure out what's good chunks and how to split it up. But thank you so much for being here. If you haven't done so yet, please like, subscribe, comment. I'm going to slowly fizzle that out and only use that occasionally. But this is early in my channel, so I feel like I got to get that energy out there. But thank you so much for being here. I hope that this has brought you guys some value. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for being here. See you guys then.